Welcome to the Black Gay History channel. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel for more captivating content. Tony Jackson was a classical popular pianist and entertainer in the early years of the 20th century. Born to freed slaves in the impoverished neighborhoods of New Orleans, Jackson taught himself musical concept at a young age, even creating his own makeshift harpsichord, inspiring his neighbors to allow him to play on their pianos. His musical knowledge was so renowned, his contemporaries and friends bragged that he only needed to hear a song once to play it himself. He was also a popular singer and dancer, playing piano and performing popular dances of the time in honky-tonks and saloons that catered to artists, musicians, and even female impersonators, or drag queens as we call them today. Tony Jackson lived openly and unabashedly as a gay man for his adult life and throughout his career, which was remarkable since there was very little social acceptance of queer lifestyles in the early 1900s. But if Jackson was performing in cross-dressing drag saloons, he must have had an accepting community to lean on. Tony Jackson will be remembered for representing Black and gay excellence and finding success during the early Jim Crow era, at a time when American society wasn't kind to Black or gay people. He died in 1921 at the beginning of the Harlem Renaissance, as a new era in American history where Black artists and talents would be celebrated by everyone worldwide. Billy Banks is considered an obscure artist in the lexicon of jazz artists of his time, but this is most likely because queer male artists were purposely ignored by homophobic historians as the years passed. Born in Alton, Illinois, Billy Banks would work and live in many places in the Midwest and on the East Coast, eventually performing in jazz clubs in Chicago and New York. Billy Banks moved from Cleveland to New York in the early 1930s and soon found himself leading a racially integrated jazz band at the then famous Connie's Inn in Harlem. He was acclaimed for his comedy and impersonations, including some female impersonation acts. Though many thought the high-pitched vocals on the then popular song Mean Old Bedbug Blues was a female performer, many were shocked to find it was in fact Billy Banks using his falsetto voice. His song, "Oh Peter," is a standout, a memorable love song that clearly has him singing adoration for a male lover named Peter. I also think there could be a tongue-in-cheek play on words here, because there is more than one way that Billy Banks can love Peter. It is still remarkable that nearly 100 years ago, mainstream music had beautiful love songs being sang by men to men. Frankie "Pint" Jackson was a comedian, singer, actor, and producer who had much success in the 1920s and 1930s entertainment industry. Frankie earned the nickname Pint at a young age from his peers because he was always of smaller stature, only growing to be 5'2" in his adulthood. He was in many bands and musical acts throughout his career, finding popularity in the blues music scene of Harlem and Chicago. Known for his wide-ranging vocals, his feminine and comedic drag personas, and ability to sing and make people laugh, Jackson was featured in radio, film, and many concert performances. Jackson would gain a following singing in a colorful, sparkly dress and wigs, singing suggestive lyrics that had the crowds thoroughly entertained. Billy Strayhorn was a jazz composer and instrumentalist who composed for some of the biggest jazz musicians in history. Many know of Billy Strayhorn through his traditional jazz compositions and collaborations with Duke Ellington from the 1940s to the 1960s. Coming from an African-American family from North Carolina with a well-documented history, the quiet pianist's musical talents caught the eye of the bandleader Duke Ellington in 1939, when Strayhorn was just 24. Though Duke Ellington is more well known for being the famous jazz band leader, many of his most popular songs and arrangements were wholly or partially started from the creative mind of Billy Strayhorn, who was for the most part comfortable with taking a behind-the-scenes role in the Duke Ellington band. Being a sought-after composer also made Billy an expert music teacher, leading him to briefly be a classical vocal coach to the legendary vocalist and screen actress Lena Horne. Later, she even admitted that she had fallen in love with him and considered him one of the lost loves of her life. Billy Strayhorn was close with not just Duke Ellington, but also with the Ellington family. And Mercer Ellington, Duke Ellington's son, would eventually introduce Billy to Aaron Bridges, another jazz pianist, who Billy would be in a relationship for several years in the 1940s. Besides music, Strayhorn also had a passion for the upliftment of his people and was very interested in supporting civil rights causes. Strayhorn was also a friend of the great Dr. Martin Luther King, and in 1963 composed a classical piece, King Fit the Battle of Alabama, in Dr. King's honor.